The slap landed so hard it echoed through the stadium speakers, a sharp crack that silenced the entire graduation crowd. For a second, the world shrank to the sting on my cheek and the feeling of my father's fingers still pressed into my wrist. Note: the story in the video is a creative work by Revenge Pulse. All characters and events are fictional, crafted to convey a humanistic message and the values of family. My name is Avery Turner, and on the morning I was meant to celebrate becoming valedictorian of the University of Georgia, my father decided to remind me who he believed I belonged to. Avery. Enough of this show, Ronald barked as he leaned toward me from the front row. His voice carried, deep and impatient. Keep the speech short. Do not embarrass us. I felt every eye in the section shift toward him, then toward me. Heat crept up my neck, but I kept my smile fixed. Dad, it's just the valedictorian address, I whispered. I worked hard for you. Worked hard for nothing, he snapped, standing abruptly. You think this fancy gown makes you better than your family. Before I could respond, my mother rose too, smoothing her dress with a practiced motion as if the problem were me disturbing the peace. Ronald, just bring her down. She always takes things too far. I have not even spoken yet, I said quietly. But Ronald was already pushing past the metal barrier, ignoring the security guard who reached out a hand. You are done embarrassing me. His fingers clamped around my wrist. Come off that stage. Sir, please step back, the guard warned. Ronald did not even look at him. His other hand came up in a clean, practiced arc. The slap hit me before I could brace myself. A gasp swept the stadium. Somewhere to my left, a student shouted that the live stream had caught everything. My ears rang, but my father's voice cut through the noise like a blade. You do not belong up here, he hissed. Chase is the one worth celebrating. You have always been a burden. I tasted copper. The words stung almost more than the slap. Behind us. My mother crossed her arms. Avery, stop making a scene. Your father is trying to help. Security finally surrounded him, pulling him away as he shouted my name like an accusation. My mother followed, scolding them for overreacting. Chase stayed seated, head bowed, pretending none of us shared a last name. I stood alone at the podium, the microphone humming softly. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Poor girl." Someone else said they were still recording. I gripped the sides of the podium until my hands stopped shaking. If you have ever fought your way through people who were supposed to lift you up, I said, voice steadying, then stay with me. And for the first time in my life, people listened. The stadium noise faded the moment I stepped off the stage, but the voice inside my head did not. It was the same voice I had heard my entire life, the one that sounded eerily like my father's. You always take things too far. Avery, he used to say, learn your place. I learned early. When I was 8, I waited outside the school auditorium after my first ballet recital, holding a bouquet I bought with saved lunch money. Kids ran into their parents' arms while the janitor swept around me. He finally crouched and asked, "Sweetheart, are they coming?" "They forgot," I whispered, and the words felt normal even then. At 16, Chase got a truck so new the dealership tags were still on it. I congratulated him while he revved the engine loud enough to drown me out. When I asked Dad if I could learn to drive too, he didn't look up from the TV. Girls get distracted. Chase needs the opportunity more, Mom added from the kitchen. Your brother carries the family name. Let him focus. I learned to walk everywhere. At 17, I collapsed during a winter shift at the diner. The doctor said it was pneumonia brought on by overwork and low nutrition. I stared at the hospital doorway for hours, hoping someone would walk through. No one did. I used my tips to pay the bill. When I got home, Mom frowned as I set the discharge papers on the table. Avery, we cannot afford your dramatic episodes. I was sick. I murmured. Dad waved me off. Chase is applying to colleges. We cannot deal with your problems right now. Chase looked at me then, not with malice, but with a kind of pity. They expect a lot from me. Try not to make things harder. So I learned to shrink myself, to need less, to apologize before anyone asked. And by the time I reached graduation day, silence felt like survival. A faculty door swung open behind me, and Professor Alvarez hurried over, her heels clicking in sharp panic. "Avery, come here," she said, guiding me into the hallway. Her hands were gentle, but her eyes were fierce. "Let me see your face." "I'm fine," I murmured, though the skin on my cheek throbbed. "No, you are not," she insisted. "Your father struck you in front of thousands of people." I swallowed hard. He said I would embarrass him. She paused, softening. "You did nothing wrong." I wanted to believe her. Instead, my voice cracked. "They always say it is my fault." Professor Alvarez exhaled slowly, as if choosing her words with care. "Avery, listen, what happened out there was not discipline. It was cruelty." The word landed heavy, almost unfamiliar. Voices echoed down the hall, security officers discussing the incident, someone mentioning the live stream, someone else saying the police were questioning Ronald and Darla outside. Professor Alvarez touched my arm. "You do not have to face them right now." "I am not going to," I said. "I am done letting them decide who I get to be." She nodded, not with approval, but with understanding. "Then take whatever step feels safest." So I walked out of the building alone, diploma still in my hand, the roar of the stadium fading behind me. For once, each step felt like it belonged entirely to me. The next morning, my cheek still carried the faint outline of my father's hand. I kept my head down as I walked across campus toward the administration building. Students whispered when they recognized me. A few said they were sorry for what happened. I nodded without slowing. Sympathy felt too heavy to hold. Inside the financial services office, a woman at the counter looked up. "Can I help you?" "Yes," I said, steadying my voice. "I need a printed breakdown of every tuition payment made on my behalf. All 4 years. Every source." She blinked. "That is a large request." "I know." Something in my tone made her nod. "Give me a moment, sweetheart." As she typed, I gripped the counter to stop my hands from shaking. When the printer finally hummed, she collected the pages and slid them to me gently, as if handing over something fragile. I read each line aloud. Total tuition and fees, $142,600. My breath hitched. Scholarships, $94,000. Research stipends, $22,000. Campus employment contributions, $33,500. Then, the final line. Family contributions, 0. The woman behind the counter softened. Sometimes families fall on hard times. It does not mean they do not care. I shook my head. They told everyone they sacrificed everything for my education. She hesitated. Then maybe seeing the truth will help you more than it hurts you. I folded the papers. Thank you. Outside, the sun felt too bright. My phone buzzed messages from classmates, notifications about the viral clip, links to news articles. I ignored them all and sat on a bench near the student center. I reread the page listing my campus jobs. I remembered the nights I scrubbed cafeteria floors until midnight, the weekends I tutored 3 kids in algebra, the early mornings in the biology lab counting spores for a research grant that barely covered groceries. I had built this degree with my own hands. My family had not contributed a single dollar or a single kind word. For the first time, the anger I had pushed down for years rose without shame. They had told me I owed them everything. The truth said I owed them nothing at all. Back at my apartment, I spread the financial documents across the table. The silence settled heavy, but not frightening, more like something finally clicking into place. Every number on those pages told the same story. I had carried myself farther than my family ever intended me to go. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk, the one I avoided because it held things my parents claimed were important for the future. Inside was the thick cream envelope my father forced into my hands last year. "Sign this." "Avery," he had said, not looking up from his coffee. "A responsible daughter helps her parents prepare." I remembered asking, "Prepare for what for adulthood?" He snapped. "Just sign." Back then, I signed because I wanted peace. Now, I slid the papers out. The first page hit me like a new kind of slap. Durable power of attorney. I read under my breath. Effective immediately. A knock sounded from the open doorway. My neighbor, Mrs. Corbin, peeked in with a basket of muffins. "Saw the news," she said softly. "You holding up, I am trying." I answered. Then, without knowing why, I showed her the document. "Do you know what this means?" She adjusted her glasses. "Honey, this gives you full authority over their finances. Retirement accounts, property transfers, all of it. They trusted you with a lot more than they admitted, or they assumed I would never use it." She pressed the basket into my hands. "Get a lawyer. Someone who will explain it properly." At the attorney's office 2 hours later, a man in a gray suit tapped the signature line. "This is valid," he confirmed. "You can restructure everything they own if you choose. I do not want their money." I said, "I just want them unable to use it as leverage." He nodded. "Then a protective trust is the cleanest solution. What will they do when they find out I asked?" He gave a small, tired smile. "That reaction is not your responsibility." Walking out of the office, the weight in my chest felt different no longer. Fear, just finality. For the first time, I held the kind of power they never meant for me to have. By the next morning, my phone would not stop vibrating. Every few seconds, another notification stacked over the last. A classmate's text popped up first. "Avery. The live stream clip hit 1 million views. Are you okay?" I turned the sound off, but the screen kept lighting up. News outlets, campus pages, strangers tagging my name with words like brave and heartbreaking. I set the phone face down, but Mrs. Corbin knocked on my door again. "Sweet girl," she said gently, "your story is everywhere." I did not post anything. I replied, "You did not have to. The world saw enough." She hesitated. "Are you safe from your parents? I am not going near them." Her nod said she understood too well. When I finally picked the phone back up, one email subject froze me. From Dr. Serena Knox. Regarding opportunity at Helios Data Labs, I opened it. Breath caught in my throat. "Avery, I watched your senior research presentation last month. Your work on early pattern detection shows rare clarity. What happened at graduation does not define you, but your composure proved something important about the kind of scientist you are. Helios Data Labs in Austin is opening a fellowship position. It is yours if you want it." I whispered the words aloud, needing to hear them. A fellowship, mine. A second later, a message from an old classmate appeared. "Girl, you inspired half the women on campus. Keep going." I closed my eyes, overwhelmed not by attention, but by something steadier permission to imagine a life beyond the one my parents kept shrinking. For the first time in years, someone saw value in me without trying to control it, and that changed everything. I returned to the university late that night, long after the campus lights had dimmed and the last shouting headlines about my family had quieted. Sanford Stadium loomed in the distance, but I walked past it toward the smaller auditorium where the valedictorian rehearsal had taken place only days before. The door was unlocked. Someone had forgotten to reset the room. My name was still written on the lectern card, Avery Turner Valedictorian. I touched the card once, then set my phone on a chair and hit record. When I stepped behind the podium, the memory of my father's slap flickered at the edge of my mind. I steadied my breath. My parents said I would embarrass them. I began. My voice echoed lightly in the empty hall. But I think the truth is they were afraid I would outgrow the version of me they preferred. The words came easier than I expected. For 4 years, they told everyone they sacrificed everything so I could earn this degree. That was a lie. I lifted the printout from financial services. $142,600. That is what my education cost. And I paid every dollar myself. My throat tightened, but I kept going. Girls in families like mine are raised to stay quiet, to be grateful, to shrink, and when we finally take up space, people call it disrespect. A tremor slipped into my voice. I did not hide it. I spent years believing my parents' version of me. The girl who was a burden. The girl who should not expect praise. The girl who should apologize for her ambition. I set the papers aside and lifted the document that had changed everything, the durable power of attorney. My father forced me to sign this. He said a responsible daughter should prepare for her parents' future. What he meant was that a compliant daughter should never question them. I fed the document into a small portable shredder I had brought. The blades hummed, swallowing the signature I once gave out of fear. I am not destroying their future, I said softly. I am protecting my own. I ended the recording and stood still for a moment, letting the silence settle. When I stepped outside, 2 students were sitting on the steps, scrolling through their phones. One looked up and whispered, "Avery, thank you." Not for the spectacle, not for the viral moment, but for finally speaking the words so many girls like us were never allowed to say out loud. My first week at Helios Data Labs felt unreal. No one raised their voice. No one compared me to Chase. No one demanded I shrink so someone else could shine. I was settling into a meeting room when my phone buzzed with a message from the front desk. "Your parents are here. We did not let them inside. What would you like us to do?" My stomach tightened. I told the receptionist I would come down. Ronald and Darla were standing just outside the glass doors, framed by the soft Austin sunlight. My mother clutched her purse like it was a life raft. My father paced in short, angry strides. The moment he saw me, Ronald snapped, "Avery, open the accounts. Now." I stepped outside, keeping distance. "Good morning to you too. This is not a game," he growled. "You froze everything. My retirement. Our savings, I placed them in a protective trust," I corrected calmly. "Your funds are safe. You just cannot mismanage them anymore." Darla wrung her hands. "Avery, sweetheart, you are overreacting. Your father has always provided for this family." I held up the tuition breakdown I had folded inside my pocket. $142,600. That is what my degree cost. I provided for myself. Darla's face fell, but Ronald scoffed. "We raised you. That should be enough." "No," I said quietly. "You raised Chase. I raised myself." He stepped closer, jaw clenched. "Undo what you did, or you will regret it." I handed him a folder. "This is everything I have documented. Every bill I paid, every scholarship I earned, every signature you forced onto that DPOA. You gave me legal authority. I used it responsibly." Darla's voice cracked. "Why are you punishing us? I am not." I replied, "I am ending a pattern." Ronald opened the folder, scanning the pages. His face changed not into guilt, but into something that looked like fear. Real fear. The kind that comes when a person realizes the power they relied on is gone. "Avery," he said, softer now, "you are still our daughter." I shook my head. "I am the woman you never thought I would be." They had no answer. Eventually, they turned away, walking back across the parking lot together but looking more alone than I had ever seen them. And I stood there, not triumphant, just steady, rooted, and finally free from the weight they used to carry in their voices. 2 months passed before I heard Chase's voice again. I was reviewing a report in the Helios conference room when my phone buzzed with a message that pulled me straight back into the past. Avery, they kicked me out. They said I made them look weak. I have nowhere to go. Please, can we talk? For a long moment, I just stared at the screen. Chase had always been the golden one, the one protected even when he stumbled. But now he sounded like someone who had finally realized the pedestal he stood on was built out of sand. I called him. He answered on the first ring. Avery. He breathed. I messed up. Okay. Dad says you ruined everything. Mom keeps crying. They said I should leave until the drama dies. I do not know what to do. I am sorry they turned on you. I said, but I cannot fix what they broke in us. There was a beat of silence. So you are not letting me stay with you. I am building a different life. I answered, but I hope you build one too. Heal yourself first. Chase, we both know what staying in that house does to people. He did not argue. He only whispered. I did not realize it until they aimed it at me. I know. When the call ended, I sat quietly, letting the ache settle. I did not feel triumph. I felt the truth. Some endings are not victories, they are releases. That realization followed me as Helios announced I would lead a new initiative researching early pattern emotional resilience in students. Dr. Knox placed a hand on my shoulder and said, "Your story matters. Avery, use it to light the way for someone else." So I did. I created the Avery Turner Resilience Scholarship, a grant for young women coming from families marked by emotional neglect or coercion. The first donation came from a team member who told me, "Your video made me call my sister for the first time in 6 years." During a work trip back to Georgia, I visited the park behind the stadium. The graduation banners were gone, but the echo of that day felt close enough to touch. I stood there for a minute, letting the old version of me drift further away. They broke the girl I was, I whispered, and the woman I became survived because of it. If you are listening now, if you have ever been pushed down by the people who were supposed to lift you up, then stay with me. Share where you are hearing this from. Stories like ours do not end in silence anymore. We rise louder together. And with that, I turned from the stadium and walked toward a future that finally belonged to me.